Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 146 of the Mo Money Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Morehouse. Welcome to the show. I am super pumped to talk to my next guest, and I'm not sure if we even told him, so I'm going to say right now, in case he listens to this episode. Hopefully he does, because he's the guest. But my next guest is Pete McPherson from doyouevenblog.com. And he also has a podcast himself. And he was actually featured in a presentation I did recently at the Canadian Personal Finance Conference on how to pitch to be on someone's podcast. And he was a good pitch, and that's why I featured him. And I met him briefly at FinCon, and it was lovely. And he was just as lovely in this episode. And we talk about his story, which is, this is a story I think I relate to. A lot of us can relate to, doing all the right things that we think, will lead to, a financially stable life, a successful career, and all that stuff. Working in the corporate world, and then realizing, hey, I feel unfulfilled and I'm really unhappy. And then figuring out, okay, so what do I need to change in my life to get to change my life in a way that makes me feel happy and fulfilled and not like dreading getting up in the morning because you have to go to the office. And so we talk about how he's been able to, leave his job and start his own business and what that means. And just we kind of talk a lot about what that means for your finances, what that means in terms of, budgeting, he has a family, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very, very interesting and relatable episode. So I know you are going to love it. But before I get to that episode, I just want to share a few words about this episode's sponsor. Support for this episode comes from Nest Wealth. You've probably heard about robo-advisors and how index-based investing is the way to go if you want to save on fees and outperform traditional mutual funds. But with so many investment companies to choose from, how do you know which one to go with? Enter Nest Wealth, Canada's first ever robo-advisor and also the largest independent digital wealth management platform in the country. It constructs its portfolios using Nobel Prize-winning research to maximize efficiency of returns while minimizing risk. Not only that, it doesn't put its clients into buckets, but instead builds personalized portfolios to best fit each individual client's needs, risk tolerance, and financial goals. The best part is you can get started investing for your future online anytime. And if you have a question or need some extra support, the registered advisors are available to chat via email and phone and are happy to help. And Nest Wealth is currently offering all Mo Money Podcast listeners 3 months free. To get started, visit learn.nestwealth.com/Jessica Morehouse. Once again, that's learn.nestwealth.com/Jessica Morehouse. And if you want to learn a little bit more about how it all works, check out my video review in the show notes or visit jessicamorehouse.com/nestwealthreview. Thanks, Pete, for joining me on the Mo Money Podcast.
Thank you, Jessica. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it was so lovely to meet you at FinCon, especially as a fellow podcaster. And you have a lovely microphone and lovely radio voice.
Thank you. If you want, I can just talk an octave lower throughout this entire thing.
Please do. Let's pretend this is NPR or something like that, or the Canadian version, CBC.
We have to get better names if we're going to do that, by the way.
Oh, okay. What should my name be?
I don't know. You put me on the spot. But they all have fancy names, and ours is Jessica, Pete, and so, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it has to be more. I feel like, our version of NPR is CBC, and I don't feel like they have fancy names. They definitely have, regular names like Linda or something. That's the name that came to my mind. So I'd be Linda, and then I would just talk like this. And it's just right. Such a soothing sound. It just kind of puts you to sleep. It's lovely. I love it.
The name I was thinking of when I said that was Ari Shapiro on NPR, which is one of my favorite names ever. I think it's brilliant.
That was a great name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to spell that, but
no
you definitely not forget it.
This podcast has started off with a bang.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's great. Okay, back on track. Pete, let's get to know you a little bit more besides your love for NPR.
Sure. So I guess I would like to tell everybody when I had kind of pitched you to come on your podcast, one of the things that
Yours was number one. You actually didn't even pitch me. You're just like, hey, really great meeting you. Want to be on my show? So that was actually a really great pitch because it was like a non-pitch. And I'm like, want to be on mine?
So I've been told, I'm really not trying to brag, but I've been told that pitching people is actually one of my gifts. So if you want later, we can kind of talk about
yes. That was lovely.
But one of the things I threw at you that your audience might enjoy is kind of how my wife and I, our two kids, are kind of living on zero income right now.
Yeah, I'd love to know that.
It's definitely zero salary, zero guaranteed income.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go based off that because I think I'd like to tell that story, and I think it could be valuable.
I think so.
A quick context. I could spend 2 hours probably telling you my story, but I'm not going to. I went through life pretty much all the way up until about 2 years ago in this like society brought on American dream type of life. Go to high school, get good grades, apply to colleges, go to a college, get good grades, graduate, grad school, corporate career, etc.
Yeah.
And I always kind of hated it. I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I didn't have a whole lot of side hustles. Like I didn't do the baseball card trading that a lot of entrepreneurs would talk about. I just didn't know. Like I kind of hated going through life like that, but I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Because my parents and teachers and counselors, you get the point. So it's kind of
like that's 100% my story and probably most of the stories of people listening right now. They're like, I did that too because that's what I thought you were supposed to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of something. Remind me later. Life's purpose.
Life's purpose.
Life's purpose. Yep.
Writing it down. Okay. Continue.
So, yes. So, after going through about 5 different majors in college, I believe, I started with music because I loved music and I wanted to be a musician right up until the point that I hated it and didn't want to be a musician anymore.
Yeah.
So, I majored in business, Italian, which I don't speak a word of Italian.
Oh. Did you do like a lot of courses in that?
Well, I didn't go to a lot of the classes that I signed up for.
I'm like, because you should know a little.
No, it was seriously like a life crisis in college. I'm sure other people have been through this. It felt miserable.
Yeah.
So I got kicked out of the University of Georgia for a semester. I ended up working, let's just call it an adult establishment.
Oh my.
It sounds mysterious because I really don't want to talk about it.
That's fair.
But I have great stories. Okay, let's just call it a strip
That's
club.
another podcast.
It is. So I went through some pretty horrible jobs just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Eventually, I went back to UGA. I majored in sociology just because, I don't know, sociology seemed like an easy degree to get. And everyone was shouting at me, Pete, you have to get a degree. You have to get a degree. You have to graduate. You have to go to work.
Yeah.
And I liked it. So sociology, boom, graduated. I go about 3 months, like, okay, I have a degree. Everyone said I should do this. Everyone says now I should get a job, but what do I do? Long story short, I didn't want to do sociology, so I went and talked to a mentor of mine growing up. He was a dean of business at a college in my hometown. And he says, why don't you try accounting? You're a musician and accounting makes sense for you. Music, accounting, same thing.
Okay.
My mind was kind of blown. Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Maybe not.
Like, because numbers and there's notes in
to
music.
This day, I don't know
like
why,
that's a bit of a stretch. I don't see that, but whatever.
I think, well, looking back now, he was really just trying to put me into a position to get a job down the road.
I see.
And make a living.
Yeah.
But that was his pitch. He was like, music, accounting. It makes total sense. So I did that. I went back to school for accounting. I got my master's, straight A's, because I actually I want to get through this. I want to do the work. I want to get a job. I love money.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Which is a theme throughout. Who doesn't? And I'm thinking accounting, money, accounting, money. It's great.
Yeah.
So I got my CPA license in a couple of months. It was great. About, actually, during the process of getting my CPA license, I got emails by recruiters asking me to come interview. And I'm like, what is this? This is magic. This is great, right?
Yeah.
So I go, my first one. I get an offer. It's $52,000 a year in Atlanta, Georgia for a large accounting firm. And I just go have some beers. Like I'm celebrating. Yeah. This is what everyone has told me to go through in life, etc. Yeah. The next 5 or 6 years, I'll kind of breeze through because it's pretty much me working in corporate America, climbing the ladder, getting pay raises every year, getting more and more responsibilities, and hating every second of it, Jessica. Like, I know people can identify with this. That's why. Yeah. So it's your standard reasons too. Like, I kind of want to be my own boss. I've kind of discovered that I can create online businesses, even though I made like zero money with this, by the way. They all failed miserably. Blogging, just, little stuff on the side. I made chalkboards. Like, I started to do little worthless side hustle things, but the spark was there, right? So I did that for 5 or 6 years, and this leads up to about a year ago, like this month, actually. So I sat down with my wife. I had one son at this point, and we're kind of like, we're kind of not happy here. Oh, and by the way, I'm like commuting like 3 hours a day, which didn't hurt or didn't help, rather.
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and we decided to move back to Rome, Georgia, which is where I'm broadcasting from right now. It's my hometown. I grew up here. The cost of living is a lot better in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to quit.
Yeah.
I want to quit my job. I had zero income coming in from like blogging or side hustles or anything. But I'm like, I want to quit. How can we make this work?
Yeah.
So throughout this podcast interview, we talk about living on zero income or side hustles or making blogging income. This is my step one, my actionable thing for anybody listening to this would be to plan ahead and don't jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
Don't jump in with both feet. Plan ahead.
Yeah.
Of course. It seems obvious, but
it's like,
people still do it. So my wife and I, we sat down. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. We'll figure out how to make it work. Even if it takes 6 months to a year, we'll figure out how to do that. So I started being very active about reaching out to people in Rome, which is where we wanted to move, and just creating jobs, basically. Like, no one was hiring. It's a very small town. There's not a whole lot of corporate accounting gigs. And so I found a startup, which is actually where I'm broadcasting live from. So I'm in a huge warehouse right now that is a co-work space.
Oh, neat.
Which most people have heard of in big cities, but in small towns, everybody's like,
unheard of.
I don't understand. So I came to work for this startup who was they were going to pay me a salary, and I get to work on my side hustles, quote unquote, for like 10, 20 hours a week. Because it was kind of part-time, but they were still going to give me benefits and a salary. And I'm like, yes, best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
So I took it. We transitioned over. We sold our house for a nice little profit. Like, we renovated it and whatnot. This is like step 2 in my actionable tip series, is to have some sort of more than just an emergency fund. Like, we hear this all the time. Like, oh, you need like 3-6 months of living expenses. We did more than that because, quite frankly, we were scared. We were scared, and with good reason, as it turns out, because one paycheck after I started for this startup, they folded. So they ran out of money. They folded. We had already moved. We had already packed our bags and came into town. I was starting work. I was loving it. I was like excited to be here. I was technically vice president of the board, which sounds way fancier than it actually was. But they were giving me money. I was like, this is sweet.
Yeah.
A week later, or actually like 2 weeks later, they fired/let me go. No money coming in, so they couldn't pay me. And so my wife and I are sitting here like, okay, what now? Yeah. We have 2 options. One would be to not unpack any of the boxes, because they're pretty much still packed, and move back to Atlanta or New York, Chicago, like
anywhere.
Big cities where I could find an actual accounting job, which, by the way, it would probably pay like, I don't know, $75,000, $85,000 a year with my experience and all that stuff. It would be pretty easy to find that. Or option 2, try to go full-time entrepreneurship. So for me, that was an easy decision. I'm like, full-time entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
we'll figure out how to make it work.
That sounds more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun. And so this is kind of where we get to actually living life with 2 kids and a family and friends and et cetera, with like zero income. So my wife, I need to say, is a highly trained musician. She's a world-class pianist, accompanist and vocalist. Like she's sang all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And there are like zero opportunities to do that in our small town, Rome, Georgia. So she's kind of like, she doesn't have a whole lot of options. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
So we talked about it and we sat there and kind of like cried over it for a little while because we were like kind of freaking out. What do we do? And we decided we're going to slash expenses.
Yep.
We're going to just go frugal as can be.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to completely alter our lifestyle. So this is like step number 3. If I can recap. Well, step number 1 for anybody listening would be to plan ahead.
Yep.
For sure. Don't just quit your job.
Hell
when you're
no.
making, like,
that's the worst thing you could do is be like, I'll figure it out later. Nope.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Absolutely. Step number 1, plan ahead. Step number 2, have money in the bank. Like emergency fund is like a real thing that people should not ignore. Yeah. And we sold our house. So we had like an extra like 15, 20 grand coming in that was just all profits or capital gains or whatever. But so we had that. And step 3 would be if you actually jump into full-time entrepreneurship and side hustles, and hopefully you have some income coming in, is you got to alter your lifestyle.
Yes.
And most people hear that, and they probably heard that on your own podcast before, for sure.
Yeah.
But the extent to which we did it was pretty different. Our lifestyle in Atlanta was cushy, and I had like a brand new Volkswagen Jetta diesel, which was super fast, and I loved it. We had a mortgage, we had, et cetera,
all the things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what we did, and this is a little bit of like magic opportunity happening here, like luck, I guess you could call it. Mm-hmm. We had an opportunity to move into my grandmother's house. She doesn't live there. My grandmother has lived in a nursing home for years. Her house is just empty. It's just sitting there. So we worked out a deal with her that was basically slash like our living expenses, like mortgage and utilities, like 95%. We don't pay any mortgage. We don't pay any rent right now. We help her out in other ways. Yeah. And I do her taxes and stuff. But so that was like the biggest thing. Like, okay, we don't actually want to live in this house. Like it's kind of like an old lady house, to be honest. But we would rather have the lifestyle of full-time entrepreneurship, right? Just waking up whenever I want. I'm sitting here right now after I went to a coffee shop at like 9:45 a.m. because I don't really have anywhere to be except for, on the laptop at Jessica podcast. So we wanted that lifestyle, so we made sacrifices. And the last thing I'll kind of point at that I think people don't do enough of is I think I'm going to call this a subscription audit. So the way that we pay for things, we being like millennials especially, but anybody really who's on the internet or watches TV, we pay for things on super small subscriptions that like add up. For example, I'm a blogger and a creative digital person or whatnot. So I had Adobe Creative Suite. I was paying for Snappa.com. It's my graphic design thing. I'm paying for ConvertKit. I'm paying for lead pages. I'm paying domain hosting. And on top of that, like we were paying for like Hulu, Netflix, utilities as well. So I noticed like we were being super frugal with like not going out to eat, and we were, making food at home and not splurging on stupid things that we didn't need. And I got rid of my Volkswagen so I could drive like a used car. I had no car note, but we're still like losing money and going into credit card debt. And I'm like, what's going on? And it's those like little subscription things that we forgot about. They just happen every month for like 3 years and we had no idea. So this was actually recently, by the way, like I went through and did a subscription audit, which I swear if people would go and do this like tomorrow, they could find an extra $50 to $100 in their budget every month. Like I swear, like I just don't use my Adobe Creative Suite that much anymore. So I was like, why am I doing this?
Well, and that's, it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember, I was using like an really old version of Photoshop. And then one day just like, sorry, what's the password? I'm like, I don't know. This version's like 10 years old. And so I had to buy it. And then there's like one option to buy the whole suite, or there's the cheaper option to just buy like Photoshop. And I'm like, Well, I would like the idea of having the other things, but I know I'll probably only use like Dreamweaver like once a year.
Yeah.
And at the time I had an older version of Final Cut. So I'm like, I think I just need Adobe Photoshop. So I got that. But when I do need sometimes, like I needed to use After Effects, I just bought it for the few months that I needed it. And most people won't really go to like the annoying hassle of doing that and then making sure to cancel so you don't get charged for an extra month and stuff
hard.
like that, right?
Yeah. It's hard. Mm-hmm. Can we actually sidestep for a second and let me pitch you a business idea?
Okay.
I just had this while you were saying this. I was like, what if this existed? Some sort of service where you only pay for what you use, but it's kind of like the Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah, that would be nice.
You just log on there and you're like, you know what? I need After Effects for this project.
Yeah.
It's going to take me 2 weeks. Why don't you just pay it like $20 and be able to use it for like 20 hours or something?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Like a
that
little
would be cool.
pay-as-you-need thing.
That makes sense. But
somebody start that.
Someone start that, because I understand why all these companies are moving, like all of them are moving to a subscription model because it works. It's passive. Does. People forget that they have them on their credit card, right?
That's
and
exactly right.
So unless, like for me, like similar to you, when we were going through a similar thing when I was quitting my job, and I'm like, we need to track our spending like hawks. We need to do an audit of our subscriptions and everything. And so we did cut a lot. And just like little things, like we both used to subscribe to Apple Music individually for our streaming service so we can listen to music and stuff like that. But my husband also subscribed to like Spotify and something else. I'm like, you don't need all three. Like, let's just choose one. And Apple Music had a family plan. So it was like $14.99 for two people instead of we're both each paying $10. Yep. That $5 a month, most people were like, who cares? Because it was kind of a hassle to switch over. But no, it all adds up, especially because years fly by. I think people also forget about that. It's like a year just flew by, and that adds up to a big chunk of money, and that's just one subscription.
How did you let me ask you a question then. So when you were going through this, we'll just call it an audit process, I guess. I used to be an auditor, so I'll just call it an audit process. Where did you look to kind of dig into where that money was going? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, what we do like on a regular basis now to track our spending, to track literally every single dollar, is basically we just generally don't use cash. So we put everything on debit and credit. So we just we just download the Excel spreadsheets from our credit cards and our banks, and we put it into another spreadsheet, and then we categorize everything to see exactly where everything's going.
Pick through it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. And it sounds annoying, and I used to not track our spending. I'm like, no, I have an idea of like what we're doing, but really I'm like, no, I didn't. And it really has had some really good conversations because of that, because we'll think that we're overspending in one category, but actually no, it's this other one. So yeah.
And it's funny also being a oh god, I almost said personal finance expert.
Oh, you
which
can.
I'm
okay.
not by any means. Well, I mean, someone who's into personal finance, and I track my money. I use like tools and software. Just always have. But it's funny, even that, like, another example would be Audible. I love Audible. I love audiobooks. But when I moved from Atlanta, I didn't commute as much. I got a new phone. And so when I got a new phone, I started fresh with all the apps. I didn't install Audible, and I forgot I was paying for it.
Oh, no. I hate that.
I guess it was about 9 months. 9 times $15 or $20 a month, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about it. I was like, oh, crap.
I've had a couple of subscriptions like that. But here's what I usually do. Well, okay, there's actually two things I want to talk about. So, number one, the subscriptions. I hate when there is one and I forget about it. So one thing that I actually do as well is in our kind of budget spreadsheet, I make a list that we can easily refer to what we are currently subscribed to. So we can also like look back at it.
Smart.
I also put dates on like when the renewal date is. So I can put like a reminder in my phone to be like, do you want to cancel this or whatever? But again, like we've kind of pared those down. But again, good reminder to just maybe do that again. Maybe I'll look. I think that's going to be my little task for today. Okay. But another thing for kind of the other side of things, there's like business expenses. So like you mentioned, you have like ConvertKit and all these things. I'm like, I've got Lead Pages, I've got ConvertKit. These things are expensive, especially as a Canadian, because it converts to USD to Canadian dollars. And it's like, that's a little bit more expensive for me. But for me, and I'm getting better at this. I used to be like, oh, but it's for my business. So I need it. It'll help me make more money and grow my business and stuff. And yeah, lots of these apps that I use are good. But some of them I've been realizing, I'm like, why am I paying so much for that when I know there's probably a cheaper option over there? So one example is all year I've been using Meet Edgar for my social media scheduling. I like it a lot. It's fine. But it's like,
I want to talk about this in just a second, a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Keep
going.
It's
okay. So I spend it's like over $700 for a year subscription. And it's actually cheaper to get a year subscription. That's why I always do. You always save like 10%, 15%, whatever. Yep. But I was realizing, I'm like, it is like one of the most expensive things that I actually, purchase for my business each year. I just can't, I don't think it's really worth it. There's got to be a cheaper option. And I did some research, and there's an app. Oh, I forgot, scheduler. I don't know. I forgot what it's called. But it does exist. I'll tell you about it later if you're looking for like a cheaper version. But it does basically the same thing as Meet Edgar. Obviously, there's less. You can put less accounts. Whereas Meet Edgar, you could put like 25 accounts. This one I think might be like 5. But I'm like, why I only have like 5? So, and it's literally like a third of the cost. So also doing an audit of like what your subscriptions are, whether you should cut them or whether there's a cheaper option out there, because there usually is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 things.
Okay.
One, this is like really fresh on my mind because I have been using, I'm just going to throw out their names because I don't care.
Yeah.
I've been using Buffer Pro.
Yeah, I used to use Buffer.
$120 a year.
I used to use Buffer.
Super happy with it until like a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm like more and more frustrated. I want the evergreen recycling.
I know. That's why I got Meet Edgar. Yeah.
Yep. So me being me, I told you about me pitching other people.
Yeah.
One of my things in life is, especially now that I'm like, not broke, but I don't have a salary anymore. I'm like, what could I give to these companies to get their software for free? I've done this to like 5
I've never even thought of that.
Oh my gosh. No one's doing this, which is why I'm just like basking in free blogging software right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But while I was thinking of that, I did some Googling and I found SmarterQ.
Yeah, that's the one. That is the one I couldn't think of the name of. So
I just signed up 2 days ago and I love it.
Yeah. No, I just signed up for the free trial. And FYI, this is not a pitch for SmarterQ. We just that's funny that we both saw that. But yeah, no, I saw that there was a free trial. I've been trying it out, and it basically does the exact same thing, but literally exactly so much cheaper. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be using. I'm just waiting for my kind of year before the date or whatever for MeetGetter to renew. I'm going to switch over.
Yep. So. People should go sign up for that if they're looking for something, and they can probably use Jessica's affiliate link to get like an extended free trial.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
I'll get an affiliate link right now. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I loved it, though. That was number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, this is for all the entrepreneurs and bloggers or online content creators.
Yeah.
More and more of these platforms that we pay for, like Lead Pages, like ConvertKit, like Buffer or whatever, they are starting to like overlap into features a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm just now realizing this.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks ago, I did another little subscription audit, and I found out that Lead Pages, which I love, by the way.
I know. I've been using them for a few years. I like them too. Yeah.
I love Lead Pages. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I just, what is my renewal date? Like, I don't remember when I last paid for this. I paid annually.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and it's like next week, like Thanksgiving Day.
Mine's like in a couple of weeks too. That's funny.
Yeah. And it was like $300 for my plan.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to my wife, who we're like looking at each other. We're like thinking about our budgets and thinking about our current lifestyle, which is very frugal, very hustle, very driven. And we're like, that's $300.
Yeah.
For people who make like $100,000 a year,
it's like nothing. But for someone who's like, self-employed, you're like, every dollar literally counts.
Yes. So I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute. I have a fairly new project with Do You Even Blog. It's still pretty new. It wouldn't be that hard for me to go back and switch out all my lead boxes from Lead Pages. There's actually not that many of them right now.
Yeah.
And I already pay for ConvertKit as well. So if I really needed that specific kind of landing page, or if I needed an opt-in box for my blog, couldn't I just use ConvertKit, which I'm already paying for anyways?
Yeah.
I decided yes. So I'm sorry, Lead Pages, maybe next year, but I canceled that. And I don't know. I feel like more people should probably do that same sort of auditing process.
Yeah.
Mainly just because those features tend to overlap.
Yeah. You've got to be like, well, do I really need this? Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, this has inspired me to do another audit. I feel like, cause yeah, I knew ConvertKit does do a lot of the same thing as Lead Pages, but I don't like, I think I do use Lead Pages enough to make it worth it. I have to think about that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I also just like, it's also, and the hard thing too is like once you get comfortable with a certain software, it's hard to give it up because you're like, oh, I know how to use it though. Yeah.
But on the other hand, I can also point at this, and this goes for not just entrepreneur software, but everything. It's funny how we all think that about even simple, like cable.
Yeah.
People all the time will be like, oh, you know what though? It's fall and it's college football and I really need that. Or you know what though? Like this season is just starting and whatnot. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like 2 months later, you would not miss it at all if you got rid of it. That's just my opinion.
It's true. It's like if you get used to it, you get used to it. Like I haven't had cable in years. We just have Netflix and we survive. And guess what, people? I feel like people forget that there is the library that exists. The library has free books and free magazines and free CDs and free movies and TV shows. Like, hello, just go to the library.
Yes.
Like for me, one of my things is I always want to cut back on like the purchase of buying books because also I just don't want to accumulate all this stuff and space, right? But also I'm like, so actually when me and my husband moved to Toronto 4 years ago, and like we literally packed all of our belongings in his car, so we really didn't have that much stuff or much room. I'm like, okay, moving forward, I'm just going to use my Kobo, which is like a Kindle, to read my books, and I'm just going to get those books from the library because you can get ebooks from the library, and that's what I've been doing ever since, and it's totally fine. Actually, it's nicer because I never have to leave the house to get a book.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm totally
and it's free.
Ooh, let me throw out one more cool thing. So Chris at Popcorn Finance, which if you're into money and you're into shorter podcasts, like those are like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
He's new. He was at FinCon too.
I think I met him.
Awesome guy. I love his podcasts. They're so short and digestible. But anyways, he published an episode recently that was basically how to get Audible for free through I can't remember what it's called. People can just go Google Chris Popcorn Finance Audible, maybe, and it'll pop right up.
I'll try to find the link and put it in the show notes as well.
It's like a national thing that
is it just for Americans, do you think?
Oh my gosh, I think so.
Damn it.
I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm
going to look into this.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's in Canada, but it's through some company that works with local libraries like all across the country, maybe the continent. I don't know. And basically just provides a set amount of like audiobooks through Audible for free.
That's interesting. Well, I do know like in Canada, or at least like in Ontario, I know you can get audiobooks from the library for free. So, but again, it's just like, I think people just sometimes forget and they're just like, oh, it's just so much easier if I buy it. But like as we're kind of going back, it's like it's actually quite easy to live below your means. And once you get used to that, you realize how, I don't know, like, because just similar to you, because this is my first year of self-employment, we've been living very frugally. We've been very conscious about every dollar we spend, and we've had to make sacrifices. And we've also had to say no. I'm like, I would love to make some renovations to our townhouse, but we have a like to-do list of like things that we want to get done, and basically we're like, well, okay, we just put in pot lights, and that was really a really good thing because it was like way too dark, the lighting was terrible, it makes our place look more expensive, but that was an expensive installation. It was like over $1,000. So we're like, okay, I think we're going to take a break from renovations and just like wait 6 months and save up. And it's basically like a good practice in saying no. But I always like to tell people that if they feel like, especially they feel like they can't control their finances or spending too much, they don't know why, blah, 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 blah. Like literally just do like a, spending cleanse is what I like to call it. Some people call it a shopping ban for a month. Just don't buy anything besides your necessities like groceries and your fixed expenses. Like just try it. And it's just like going on a normal cleanse or like changing your diet. You'll feel so much better after, and you'll have more stuff after. So
I love that.
Yeah.
If nothing else, but because doing things in moderation for so many people, including myself, like I stink at doing anything in moderation.
Yeah.
So if I was like, oh man, I want to spend like 10% less next month, I'd never ever do it.
No,
Or,
sometimes you need to have a
lose.
challenge. Like,
Yeah.
and then also, like, sometimes it's easier to, like, if people are like, your friends are like, oh, let's go out. And you're like, oh, I can't because I just don't want to spend the money. Like, it's sometimes harder. But if you say, oh,
Yeah.
I'm doing a challenge where I'm not spending, if anything,
That's
they'll probably
exactly
be
right.
like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So
No, I'm totally with you.
putting that out there.
I did the same thing. Okay, this is only
Yeah.
tangentially related, but I did the same thing with dieting. So I have a sweet tooth. Like I would eat pancakes for breakfast every single morning, and then pizza, and then beer, and then just chocolate
Damn.
the rest of the day. I would, if given the choice. So
Well, yeah, given the choice, I also
Well,
would, but
yeah.
I'd be literally 1,000,000 pounds. So
I don't know what that would look like, but yeah,
I would have way more chins than I already have.
you would be completely stuck in your townhouse.
I would be stuck in this chair right now.
But I can't do anything in moderation. Like
Yeah,
I just can't.
yeah.
So what worked for me was going on the ketogenic diet, which
Yeah.
is a little bit more hardcore for
Yeah.
those who haven't heard of it.
I haven't
Those who
heard of
have
it.
probably realize it's a little hardcore. It's like 0 carbs, pretty much. which
Yeah. So is
it's
it
hard.
sort of similar to the paleo diet?
It's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, this was like, not only was it a challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if somebody was like, hey, let's go grab some pizza, I wouldn't have to say exactly what you just said. Like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I'm not really doing pizza.
Yeah.
I would say like, nope, can't have it. I'm on the keto diet, 0 carbs.
Yeah.
And I did that for 2 months, and it was probably like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was not moderation at all. It was like super strict,
Yeah.
super hard, and it worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird mindset switch thing.
It is. Well, like similarly, like me and my business partner friend Jacqueline Phillips have the Rich and Fit Boot Camp, and part of it is we have a meal plan. And I, being like one of the co-creators of this course, did all the workouts in the course and the meal plan. And I told her the first week I switched to the meal plan, and it really was like hardly any carbs, maybe just like some quinoa or some like sweet potato, like it's all about whole foods and stuff like that. I like felt like crap the first week. And she's like, it's because you're addicted to sugar and you don't
Yeah.
even know it. And I'm
keto
like,
flu.
actually, totally. Yeah, that's exact. And then after a week, I felt immediately better and lighter.
Yes.
And of course,
Yes.
I've fallen off that wagon. So I need to get back on it because it's, it's time. Because
I'm
it
right
did
there with
work.
you.
It totally freaking worked. I'm like,
Yeah.
And, yeah. Anyways, that's a whole other.
Yeah. Yeah. But to be fair, we can bring it back around. Like,
Yeah.
I do think that applies to personal finance,
absolutely.
lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
That was really a broad word. Let me break that down. Lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Meaning like switching up your lifestyle if you are going from like full-time job to
Yeah.
this, or if you're going from this location to travel or whatnot.
Or if you're like just unhappy in
I-
your situation, you can change it. And I feel like a lot of people just need to be reminded of that. It's like just because you've been living the same way for decades or the last 5 years does not mean, and again, like that's why there's so many parallels between like personal finance and like health and fitness is there's very similar. It's like lots of people are like, oh, but I've always been kind of heavy or blah, blah. It's like, well, just because it's always been like that doesn't mean your future has to continue like that.
Yep.
Like you can absolutely change it. It's not easy. You have to be very self-motivated and hard on yourself, and it's not going to be easy, but it's possible.
Oh, you know what? I'll add in one more thing that I probably should have said earlier. Whether it's dieting or personal finance or quitting your job or whatnot.
Yeah.
My wife and I, as an example, have made a ton of sacrifices.
Yeah.
And we make way less money right now
Yeah.
than we did a year and a half ago when I was in corporate America. She was still in Atlanta working. Way less money. Like, I'm not going to give the numbers away, but
But
it's
significant.
incredible. I've never been happier.
Yeah.
Never been happier.
100%.
Living in my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
I have my own work now. I work on my blog, which is my business now. I love every second of it. I spend time with my kids who still have food on the table because we managed to do that. But I was so scared of doing this. I was terrified. Like I said, my wife and I like cried it out literally for like a couple of days when we're stressed and thinking about what to do. We made the decision. Now I guess most people would call it struggling, but I call it building.
Yeah.
Like I'm building up
I like that.
my business and my income, and we're fine.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I've never been happier.
And it's also like exactly. Like, it's so funny that you say that because, like, literally, I probably made close to double last year because I had my full-time job and my side hustle. Now I just have my one hustle. But I am so much happier. And yes, I do live very strictly. I haven't bought clothes in a year. You know, like there's lots of things that I haven't been able to do, but there's still lots of things that I am able to do. And it's, for me, I had to reevaluate like what made me happy and what are my values. My values are like, I like having like the luxury of being able to sleep in, or just like making my own schedule. And I want to be able to help people and do my passion. And I think after so many years of kind of like doing a lot of different, you know, jobs, that I thought maybe this will be the right path. Maybe this will be the right path. I'm like, actually, I think personal finance and helping people with financial literacy is kind of my calling, not to be all, you know, but I feel like it's like, that is what I feel like. And because I feel so amazing when I hear someone who's like listened to the podcast or read something on my blog or whatever, to be like, oh wow, like I was really struggling, and you know, listening to you has really changed my perspective. I'm like, wow, like that's powerful, because like people have done that to me, so I, you know, it's a privilege to be able to do that to other people. So we're gonna wrap this up soon, but I wrote down life's purpose for you. What does that mean? What are we talking about there? I know.
No, this is good.
Yeah.
See, that's why I said it. I didn't want to like.
I'm so glad you did. I'm like, I wrote it down. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to share with you my life's purpose, because I just found it like 6 months ago. And I'm 32, by the way, so it took me a while. So my life's purpose now, probably somewhat similar to yours, maybe a little different. I want to help people like myself.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows the story now. I struggled. I was kind of pushed and funneled through life in a very specific and very common direction. And only in the past like 3 years to 6 months have been able to make my life look like what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
And forget money and forget comfort and security. Like I like what I'm doing right now, which is trying to blog full time. That's just me. I know a ton of people want that, but I love it. And my purpose in life right now is to help everyone else like me, wherever they are along in that process. And what I want to leave people with, especially is that I actually don't know what that looks like. Like, it's not a goal, a specific destination. It's a path. Like, I know my purpose in life is to help other people like me find a more personal and more joyful and more valuable path for themselves. I don't know if that's going to be on my current project or my next full-time job or whatever my life looks like 5-10 years from now, but that is my life's purpose. And I'm 100% aware of it. It's a path, not a destination.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like that might help people. So
I think that's also something, as I've gotten older, realized it's not like, I think I always got caught up when people would say, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? Because you always get that question when you're like interviewing for a job or whatever like that. And so you always have to come up with something. I'm like, you know what? I understand the importance of having a plan, so to speak, but to be able to say that you can kind of predict where you want to be in 5 years, I've stopped doing that. I literally just live year to year. I have a lot of goals. I think as long as you've got like a good financial plan, you don't really need to know how the rest of your life will play out, because you may say no to opportunities because it doesn't fit within that box.
I love it.
Yeah, I
think that's great.
I know. Well, I'm so glad that we connected. This was lovely. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Yes.
We can continue this conversation.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
I know. But yeah, Pete, where can people find you, learn more about you if they're so inclined?
So doyouevenblog.com is my current project.
Is there a question mark in there? Probably not, right?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't allow that in domains.
Can you actually do that in URLs?
I don't think you can. How have
you can on the end. You know how you do like affiliate links and it'll be like question mark.
Oh yeah, but not like
ref.
Can you? Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Just clarify that. Sorry.
doyouevenblog.com. And actually, I've created a little video for your audience.
Ooh.
And it doesn't have a name, but I did write this down here.
Okay.
What I really wanted to get at, because I thought this would be a good intersection of your audience, is either for those who are interested in starting a blog or bloggers who are already out there that want to kind of make enhancements or grow their blog for the least amount of money possible.
Yes.
So we talked about like the subscription audits and that sort of stuff. So I put together a few videos that people can get. It's at doyouevenblog.com/momoney. So M-O money.
Fabulous.
Yeah, doyouevenblog.com/momoney. You can go get the little bonus videos on some very cheap or frugal, however you want to think about it.
I love it.
Ways to build a blog and grow a blog.
Hey, I started my blog I tell people this, I started out on Tumblr. I got my sister to design it because it was free. That's why, that's how cheap I was. I didn't want to, because I wanted my own domain, but I didn't want to do self-hosting because I couldn't afford like $10 a month, basically. So I got it hosted on Tumblr because hosting was free there. But also just like there's a lot of other, it was like a terrible platform to do what I was doing on it. So yeah, I totally get it. It's like you can start a blog for super no money if you want.
Yeah. And have an email list and have opt-ins and
like that's you can do all that stuff and you don't need to spend all the money that we're spending on like ConvertKit and lead pages.
But that's what it is.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. You're an amazing podcaster. So keep doing it. Keep going.
Oh, okay. I'll keep doing it though.
Okay. Thanks again, Jessica.
And that was episode 146 with the wonderful Pete McPherson. You can find him at doyouevenblog.com. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, he also has a podcast called the Do You Even Blog podcast. And I was actually recently recorded and for his show. And you can find my episode on there. It was released January 29th. And I love the title of it too. And I mean, it's because, it pats my ego a little bit. It's called The Canadian Powerhouse Inside the Blog Podcast and Products of Jessica Morehouse. It's a good episode, if I do say so myself. But again, I'll put more information about stuff that we talked about, more information about Pete, and a link to that interview on his podcast in the show notes. JessicaMorehouse.com/146 is where you can find all that stuff. More stuff to tell you, but before I get to all of that, here's just a few words about this episode's sponsor. Support for this episode comes from Nest Wealth. Want to start investing for your future? Luckily, nowadays, it doesn't mean you have to make an appointment with some suit in an office. Actually, you don't even have to leave your house. Nest Wealth, Canada's first ever robo-advisor and the largest independent wealth management platform in the country, provides a new way to invest your money. Offering index-based portfolios with lower fees and better historical performance than actively managed mutual funds, Nest Wealth is focused on building personalized portfolios to best fit the needs, risk tolerance, and financial goals of each and every client they serve. And Nest Wealth is currently offering Almo Money podcast listeners 3 months free. To get started, visit learn.nestwealth.com/Jessica Morehouse. Once again, that's learn.nestwealth.com/Jessica Morehouse. And if you want to learn a little bit more about how it all works, check out my video review in the show notes or visit jessicamorehouse.com/nestwealthreview. Alrighty, right. So just a few things. Thanks for everyone sending me iTunes reviews on the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of YouTube, make sure to subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every single week, and I'm doing a lot more stuff with YouTube. I'm getting a lot of, I got a lot of great feedback from some surveys that I did, I guess in December, just because I want to know, what do you guys want from me? And a lot of the reviews, or a lot of the feedback rather, that I got was, we want more information about like how, what are different like products or apps that we should maybe look into or whatever. So I'm doing a lot more of that. I'm doing a lot more, reviews and tutorials on things that you may want to try out. And you may just need some, visual information. That is honestly, whenever I'm about to like look into something, I kind of look on YouTube because I want to know what it looks like or how does it work. So make sure to go to jessicamorehouse.com/YouTube to check me out, check out my new videos, tutorials. And if you have something specific that you want more information about, you want me to do a blog post or a video on or anything, any kind of feedback is always welcome. Just shoot me an email directly, jessica@jessicamorehouse.com. And before I let you go, I've got a few more podcast review shout outs that I want to get to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to take the time to leave me a review. All right, this one is from Northern BC from Canada. And they say, Jessica is a dedicated podcaster that is very enjoyable to listen to. I highly recommend. I certainly am dedicated. 146 episodes in less than 3 years. That's crazy. That is crazy talk. I don't Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? But anyways, one is a new one from Giggle Get from USA. Jess is a boss and a charming host. I love it. I'm a boss. Oh, I like that. I am actually a boss. I'm the boss of myself and my business, but I also like to be like a boss, like a BAWS. Is that how they spell it? Is that how the kids spell it? I don't know. Anyways, I'm a boss. Thank you so much, Giggle Get or Giggle Jet. One is from Bo from Canada. Oh, I think I actually know who that is. Jessica has the most interesting guests and conversations. That's really the best part. They are conversations and discussions like you would have with your friends. If your friends were experts in a whole bunch of different subjects, which they might be, it's just easy to listen to. And I've learned so much from Jessica and her guests. Well, thank you so much, Bo. I really appreciate that review. Okay, we'll do 2 more. Jenna Ross, entrepreneur from Canada. I love the variety of topics and guests on this podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Jenna, for listening and that review. And last but not least, we've got Alt Seng from Canada. I'm just starting to explore personal finance, and this podcast has been really informational. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for sending me your reviews. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to get a shout out on a future episode, it's super simple. All you have to do is go to iTunes or Stitcher, YouTube. I'll try my best to, gather those as well. And I'll give you a shout out on, a future episode to say thank you and read your review out. It's a lot of fun to read them and get to know your feedback. And, it's a good time. Everyone has a good time. Everybody. So I have a special podcast episode for tomorrow. So make sure to check back here tomorrow for that. Subscribe on, iTunes or YouTube, Stitcher, wherever you're listening so you don't miss it. And I will see you back here tomorrow. All right. Have a good rest of your day.